The butterfly rainbow. The world is shaped by two things: stories told and the memories they leave behind. For all the stuff of the Prince of Wales School and Preschool with love. Once upon a time there was a school, an extraordinary school. Within the extraordinary school there was also an extraordinary preschool. Both were full of extraordinary children and, most importantly of all, extraordinary staff. The staff were extraordinary not only because they did extraordinary things, but also because they did ordinary things in an extra special way. All the families of the children who went to the extraordinary school felt extraordinarily lucky to be there. One day the world woke up to the news that there was a dangerous virus and started spreading through lots of different countries. And that to stop it spreading even further, everyone should stay apart. This meant that everyone was asked to stay at home and not go to work or school or see their friends. This was called lockdown, and it was hoped that it would keep people safe from the dangerous virus. Having to stay at home made everyone feel sad and worried. The extraordinary staff problem felt sad and worried too, but they didn't say so, at least not to the extraordinary children and their families. Instead, they stayed extraordinarily positive. The extraordinary staff set to work making plans for how they would help everyone get through the lockdown. Many of the extraordinary children were asked to stay at home with their families, but some of them needed to keep coming to school. So the extraordinary school stayed open for all the children, even over the holidays. The extraordinary staff took it in turns to come to work at the extraordinary school, to look after the extraordinary children who needed to be there. It was strange for them being at school whilst most of their friends stayed at home. The extraordinary staff made sure that everyone was as happy as they could be and that they all felt loved and cared for. When extraordinary staff weren't working at the extraordinary school, they were working extraordinarily hard at home, creating extraordinary learning opportunities for the extraordinary children at home. They launched a virtual school where the extraordinary head teacher did 3 live online broadcasts, including a virtual assembly every day for over 3 months. The extraordinary children were asked to share the extraordinary work they had done at home, and the extraordinary head teacher sent a personal voice message to each one every time they did one extraordinary number of hours that must have taken. There were even virtual discos and quizzes for all the families to join in with from home. Extraordinarily, it did not stop there. In between all their hard work, the extraordinary staff also found time to make heartwarming music videos to entertain the extraordinary children and their families. On some extraordinarily exciting days, the staying-at-home families were surprised with visits from the extraordinary staff, delivery goodie bags, and more of these also arrived by post. Some of the extraordinary staff phoned the staying-at-home families to make sure they were all coping okay and had everything they needed to be as happy as they could be. If the families hadn't been able to get enough food, the extraordinary staff delivered food parcels to make sure they didn't go hungry. If the families were scared or worried, the extraordinary staff gave the reassurance that things would be okay. No family was left to face things alone, because as the extraordinary staff kept saying, we're all in this together.
The extraordinary caretaker painted a gigantic rainbow on the fields at the extraordinary school so that the crew of air ambulance would see it as they flew overhead, letting them know that they were loved and appreciated for their amazing work.
After a few months, it was time for the youngest staying-at-home children to start going back to school, which was extraordinarily exciting for them but extraordinarily sad for the rest who were still staying at home. The extraordinary staff decided they would not be content until all the classes of the extraordinary children come back into school where they belonged. They found it in extraordinary ways to make this happen. It was all quite simply extraordinary. Everything the extraordinary staff did put smiles on the faces and in the hearts of the extraordinary children, their families, and the whole community, making all their fears flutter away like lots of colourful butterflies on the breeze. If you are lucky enough to go down to the extraordinary school, you will see those colourful butterflies all fluttered together to make a beautiful rainbow decorating the wall of the extraordinary school forever. The butterfly rainbow is there as a permanent reminder of just how extraordinary, kind and supportive the extraordinary staff from the extraordinary school were during the lockdown of 2020. The end.